Hi folks, welcome to today's color process video. Okay, today's comic is not one I'm entirely happy with, if I'm frank, when it comes to the colors. Um, because of the nature of how I drew the comic this is the first comic I've drawn in a while where I used a brush pen instead of my typical, say, microns or Staedtler pigment liners. Um, the art is a bit more messy and minimal than my past few comics, and it doesn't exactly lend itself very well to flat colors. At least I thought that at first. And in my attempts to color it, I was intending on having like a sky in the background of the various panels of like the flying into the panel and flying down to the Venus flytrap and whatnot. However, all my attempts to do that, it didn't really work for me. It kind of messed up the contrast that I wanted, like where I wanted the fly to very much be clear and make the Venus flytrap very clear as well. I mean, they're the two main things we need to we need to focus on, and I felt that having a color in the background, it kind of took away from that in a way. Like I did mess around with, I used like paintbrush tools to try and get a more like get a kind of a gradient in there to lighten the colors around where the fly and the Venus flytrap are, and darken them up at the top. That didn't really work, and then from there I attempted using the gradient tool in Photoshop, and again that didn't work. So as I went on, I'll be honest, I got a bit frustrated with it, so I took the sky out altogether. And as I went on, especially when I added the background colors in the second kind of the circular panel and the panel of the close up of the Venus flytrap, I felt that the just the just having the blank white background, it worked. It it just looked good, you know. It looked good to have the strong red of the Venus flytrap in a corner of the panel, and then having this like circle of green in the first panel, anyways, having this circle of green around the fly, where the fly is obviously, and I felt having those two elements against a white background, they jumped out all the more, and I felt that it was kind of almost an accidental thing, but I felt that if I had like a color in the background, it wouldn't have been quite as effective. And it's again, it's one of those things where I often get, even though I'm more confident in leaving things blank when it comes to coloring my work and also drawing my work, there is still that part of my mind where like I feel, oh, every corner of the panel, every blank piece of the panel needs to be filled in with something, when that very often is not the case. You know, if something works as it is, often you should just leave it as it is. You know what I mean? Now, like if I had spent more time on it, I possibly could have figured out something that would have worked. But I, yeah, I just felt this worked better. Like the balance was better, because if you look at the final comic, like just now that I'm looking at it, kind of stepping away from it here, um, just looking at it on the screen here, I noticed that there's kind of like, okay, you've got the first panel is like just this blank white space. Then if you go diagonally down to the fourth panel, that's a blank white space, and then you go diagonally again to the fifth panel, that's a blank white space. And then the opposite of that, the second panel, you've got like a block of color. You go diagonal from that, you've got a block of color, and then diagonal from that, okay, it's not a block of color, but you've got like a block of basically like black, or well, close to black. And yeah, looking at it from, you know, kind of stepping away from it, it kind of creates a nice sense of balance. I find it like there's a nice kind of a composition to that, and I kind of needed to get this one done quickly. So what I was saying before about you know, my feeling that it wouldn't work well with flats. Well, what do you know? I rendered everything in flats. I did intend on adding like a bit of shading to the characters, like the fly and the, well, I say characters, but let's just say the Venus flytrap is a character. I intended on adding like a, you know, just subtle bits of shading to them, but I just got to the point where I thought, do you know what? This works as is. Like, I don't really need to add anything more to this. And yeah, this is something I still struggle with, where, you know, I still feel like I have to do the best coloring job possible. Everything has to look absolutely beautiful, but sometimes, you know, you just need to get the thing done. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Done is better. Done is better than perfect, and it's better to just get something done, get it out there, than spending hours upon hours upon hours perfecting the tiniest little details, which, you know, in the long run doesn't really mean much. So yeah, kind of a mixed kind of bag with this one, where overall I'm still fairly happy with it, but I think it could have turned out better than it did. But at the same time, it could have turned out far worse. So it's kind of in between for me. So, anyways, thank you very much for watching, and I will talk to you at the next video. Take care.